Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today we're reacting to 20 people confront the billionaire. This video was done by Jubilee and the name of the billionaire is John Morgan. Actually at first I thought this guy was, the owner of JP Morgan, but I think JP Morgan died long ago. I think JP Morgan was among the financial guys during the era of the Rockefellers, the Rockefellers or the Rothschild, one of them, the person that owns the conglomerate, you know, petroleum conglomerate in the United States, like he owned everything. So besides that, I thought this guy was owner of JP Morgan. But yeah, I'm just realizing he's a lawyer. So let's get into the video. Let's see what's going on.
Today, I think we've all sat here and we've heard you talk about your jet and Maui and your 3 homes and the money that sits in your account that you don't care to touch. What stops you from helping every person in this room that's struggling right now? How do you help them? What do you do? Because you got a private jet, but I had to take off from work today and I'm struggling. I got bills, man.
I'm John Morgan, the founder of Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. And according to Forbes, I'm a billionaire. Ask me anything.
My first question is, how much are you currently worth and how did you amass that amount of money?
I'm a lawyer. I went to law school and became a lawyer, but I'm also a serial entrepreneur. I built and operate a chain of attractions across America. I have Marriott hotels across America. I built shopping centers. The big part of my wealth has been generated by my law firm, Morgan & Morgan. Well, I don't know exactly how much I'm worth. I used to tell my kids when they were little, when their friends would ask them, are we rich or not? I said, the answer is this, we're comfortable.
What do you mean comfortable? Like,
Yeah, there's this story that went by about this guy, about Dangote. So the story went like this, that they always told Dangote that he's not a billionaire, but he didn't believe it. So, like him now, in order to understand how much money he has, he went and withdrew $10 million. $10 fucking million. He withdrew $10 million and kept it in his house and just stared at it. That is when it came to his mind. That's when it dawned on him that he's fucking rich. You understand? So all these billionaires, you understand, some of them, especially those that started from the gutter to reach where they are, some of them don't really understand that, oh my god, they have too much money until they realize it. So let's keep it that way.
you definitely have way more than just being comfortable. You live a luxury life.
Do you call being worth $1 billion comfortable?
Very.
Comfortable.
But you don't feel like it because you don't spend it. When you grow up a certain way, it's not like it's changed much in my life. I'm in the same house. I don't spend the money that you would think I'd spend. It's odd because you have all this money in the bank, but it doesn't really change what you do day to day.
My question for you is, what stops you from using your wealth to change somebody's life?
Nothing. Listen, I live 3 places. I live in Florida, I live in Maui, Hawaii, and I live in New Hampshire. But I've taken my wealth and done certain things. Like in Florida where I live, I ran a constitutional amendment twice to legalize medical marijuana. I lost the first time, but I won the second time with 72% of the vote. I believe that income inequality is the #1 issue facing America today. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. And every day the gulf is getting wider.
Now imagine how bad it is in Nigeria. Imagine like the gap. Should we even call it a gap? Like, okay, the saying of like the distance between that Abraham told the rich man that the distance between them is too far, that he cannot throw water from up there down to quench rich man's test, the rich man's test down there. That's how big the gap, like the inequality gap of wealth is in Nigeria.
So what did I do? I ran a constitutional amendment. I spent tens of millions of dollars to raise the minimum wage from $8 an hour to $15 an hour in Florida. That's a doubling of the minimum wage. So I take that money that I make and I've run those constitutional amendments and I've put money into food banks and coalition for the homeless, and it goes on. And I will tell you this, not to pat me on the back too much about it, because I don't really feel it. I don't really feel it. I was at lunch the other day and this woman walks up to me, she says, John, I just want to thank you and your wife for the donation you made to iDignity. I didn't know what iDignity was. I said, how much do we give? She said, $500,000. It turns out that my wife had given the money. And by the way, if you want money, call my wife. And iDignity is a place for the poorest of the poor to get identification, because more and more in this country, you need to have an identification just to get food stamps. I believe when you make this kind of money, you have an obligation to give it back. You don't feel it. It doesn't hurt you. You know, you can look at me and know I'm not missing too many meals. So I don't feel like I'm doing anything special. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
So I'm going to try to rephrase it. What stops you from getting out that car at the moment where you and your son, and you seen the homeless person? What stopped you from changing that person's life?
Well, I do get out of the car from sometimes. When I
Yeah, there are different things that will stop me personally. Because first of all, first and foremost, if I am working, I have two hands, two legs. If I am working and I see someone my age grade who is just standing and begging, I don't give that person money. I know my money cannot change that person's life, yes, quite alright. But I don't feel any pity or sympathy for that person, because I know that people that is also his age mate who are, driving buses or keke, all these tricycles, or who are like, in construction. Me too, I'm also working. So why is that person just staying there and be begging? That is like laziness, like for real. The person is contributing nothing to the society. So why should I even come down from my car to help that person? Please. Unless I see the person is like disabled, you understand? Then I'll be like, okay, this person is blind or is crippled or all that. He needs the money, because there are very few jobs that can accept him. You understand? So I could just, lend him some money, or this kind of charity work now. Then another one that pisses me off the most, I hate seeing, is people, all these beggars now, they come with their kids. You understand? When other children are going to school, even if it's government school that is very cheap here in Nigeria, they come with their kids to stand on the road and help them beg. Like, why would you do that? Like, if you're trying to break the cycle of poverty in your family, do you think it's by begging? Like, at least your kids, the parents should be begging on the road. Good, quite alright. But the kids should be in school, studying. You understand? From there, at least there's development going on. At least you know that something is going on, that the child can help himself or herself because they're getting educated. Then the parents carrying the child to stand on the road and be begging for money like this. Where do they want to succeed from? Where do they want to succeed from? Like, it's just very crazy to me. I hate seeing that. Like, I hate it with passion. Kids that are supposed to be in school, they are outside begging. For what reason?
And that's how you've amassed your network and everything that you've earned. If you had to start over in a different industry, what would you be in order to become a billionaire again?
I don't even know how it happened in the first place. So it's like keep waiting to wake up, and it was all a dream. I was like, how did this happen? Listen, here's my problem. I suck in math and I suck in science, so there's not many jobs left for me after that. But my gut tells me I want to go to Wall Street and make deals like that. But what I would probably do is stay in the attraction business that I'm in. I love that business because there's no fighting. And I did it as a hobby. I've always thought what I could have done with my attraction and amusement business if I'd had it full time instead of, it was more like collecting stamps than anything, to tell you the truth.
So you made some comments about liking capitalism and how much legislation you did for raising the minimum wage for $15 an hour here in Florida. Is there anyone at your law firm or your multiple businesses that you're paying less than $15 an hour now?
No. And I wasn't paying less then, because I believe that a living wage is a civil right. I also believe that retaining employees with a living wage and bonuses, it's good for business. I believe by paying more to my employees, I keep them, attrition is lower, and believe it or not, although it sounds backwards, I believe by paying more, I make more because I keep people, and
True.
my people are really all I have.
So, in your opinion, why are
Like now, let me break down what I said. You understand? From what I've experienced in this, you know, in this business aspect of the world, if your employees are happy in the company, obviously, the company will grow because they will want to add more value to the company. As if you have good employees, yes, if you have good employees, yeah. Now let me give you this example now. If your employees are very happy in the company, like you compensate them well, you treat them nicely and stuff like that, they will also replicate, that treatment you give them to the customers, you understand? So, and then the customers, one thing with like good customer service is that it brings referrals. You understand? So when those customers go back out, they will tell, their friends and family like, yo, if you want to get this done, you can go and meet so and so person in that company, and they'll go back to that place looking for so and so person in that company. At the end of the day, it's your company that the money goes into. You understand? So that's one thing with like, treating your workers nice. That's one thing. It helps the company grow, because they bring more referrals and stuff like that. And again, if your employees see someone who in their need of in their need of a help that the company can offer, and they want to go to another company, they will work hard to get that company. They will work hard to steal that, employee. They will work hard to steal that customer from your competitor and bring them to your company. That's how business goes.
aren't other billionaires doing the same thing that you're doing?
Well, I think some are and some aren't. A lot of people have to, like once I raised the minimum wage here in Florida, all of a sudden, out of the blue, Universal raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I kind of took credit for that. At a certain point, when wages start to rise, businesses have to respond, because if Universal's paying $15, then Disney's got to pay $15, because who cares if you're running Small World or Harry Potter? You're looking for a job.
So you mentioned a little bit how you've put money into politics and things like that, and in the current political climate in the United States, our government's run by the billionaires, kind of for the billionaires. What do you think the moral role of a billionaire should be within the United States government?
By and large, the opposite of what it is. These fat cats got so much money, but they want the tax laws to benefit them. Like these hedge fund people don't even pay taxes. And so the billionaires are not satisfied with what they have. They want more and more and more.
I think there's a news line that Jeff Bezos didn't pay tax. Like he doesn't pay tax at all. That's crazy. With that kind of money, that guy has.
And more. And what my worry is, this income inequality, at some point there's a breaking point. At some point you can become Cuba. And what I would say to these billionaires, you're going to make this gulf so big and so vast, just because you don't think it could ever happen in America. Just remember January 6th. Just remember them storming the Capitol. Those were the barbarians at the gate, and they were mad as hell. And you know what they're mad about? They were mad because they think they're going to fall further and further behind. They weren't mad, and they thought Donald Trump was the one that could do it for them. But that's why they stormed the Capitol. And when I saw it, I said, that could be our future if we let the haves and the have-nots get so separated.
I think everybody knows that probably every single billionaire does evade taxes. And he did say that he wants billionaires to be taxed so high, but I can promise you he probably has found ways to evade taxes.
Back in around like
Yeah,
1940s,
why not? Why not? They give you the opportunity to do it. Unless you're a very good person. Like, why not? Like, these taxes are so damn high. Like, taxes. Like, even in Nigeria, where I'm staying, that's on all these tax, you pay for this, you pay for that. And at the end of the day, the money you're going to pay for, like, the money you're paying for will trickle down on the price of goods and services. And, that can affect, customer retention. So, sometimes taxes are stressful, but if the government is doing something nice with the taxes, like I don't think there will be so much reason to complain. Like they, like, if the government is not just, collecting the taxes and holding it for themselves, I don't think there will be so much reason to complain, honestly.
The tax rate was around like 90, higher than 90%, right? Would you be somebody that would advocate to bring back such a high tax rate in order to redistribute the wealth?
90%?
I don't know about 90% because you got to have some motivation. Listen, I am a capitalist. I believe in capitalism. But I also believe we have to do the most for the most with the least.
So when you mention capitalism, right? Capitalism is kind of inherently parasitical, right? You're going to always take more from the workers. You're going to put a profit on their labor that they're putting into the business. And I think now we're seeing that capitalism inherently causes these income inequalities. So I think we need to expand those social safety nets. We need to increase taxes on the wealthy in order to allow the poor to enjoy, the things that maybe you enjoyed when you were younger and things like that.
Well, look,
But back again, this topic has, its pros and cons. I feel like one of the cons is that there's a way you tax, all these rich people and rich companies. They don't have enough money to invest in research. You understand? Because one thing that makes, countries grow and companies grow is the amount of money they could put in research in order to develop something new. So if you're saying you want to tax everybody to, at very high amounts, to level the playing ground, you may end up hurting yourself or the country's economy at the end of the day.
I agree with you. And I think it's really for these people who are so rich, they're going to lose it one way or the other if they don't. Because look, the thing about, you got socialism and capitalism. Socialism on paper makes a lot of sense. But then you got to count on everybody working where they all work. But in the short run, what we're seeing right now with this big, beautiful bill that they're talking about, we're talking about cutting all sorts of benefits to give more money to the rich and dig our country into trillions of more long-term debt. And I look at it and I scratch my head. The rich should be taxed bigger and harder. And so the reason I'm more for capitalism is because if you go to a socialistic country like France.
France is not socialist.
France is not?
No. You look at, let's say China. We'll give China for example.
China's not. China's communism. I've been to China.
China's not communist.
Huh?
China's not communist. They're run by the Chinese Communist Party, but
China is
they
communist.
don't
What
have
are they?
any. They're a socialist country.
Socialist?
Yes. And you look at their
man,
infrastructure.
hey,
You
man,
look at
I've been to
their
China.
wealth inequality, and it's actually pretty good.
Have you ever been to China?
Have I? No. Why
Let me
don't
tell
I?
you something. It is
like
the
some
most
niggas.
depressed country I've ever
No.
been to.
Look, no. China's not oppressed. Look at China. China has they have great social safety nets.
You need to go to China and watch the people with their heads down.
This is a completely different China we're talking about. I'm talking.
I'm not China today.
I'm talking. Yeah.
I think that China is just a mixture of capitalism and communism, you understand? Like during Mao Zedong's time was just strictly and purely communism. But I think they're coming down. I've forgotten the last leader before Xi Jinping, I've forgotten his name, but I think from his period down, it was now a mixture of capitalism and communism. But everybody knows now there are boundaries between them, like all these rich people, all these billionaires, they know the line they shouldn't cross between them and the government. But if they cross that line, it's out, execution. Like when was the last time you heard about Alibaba and the owner of Alibaba? What's his name? What's his name? I forgot his name. Like just to show you how long it has been since I had his name.
Yeah. Okay. If we're talking about China today, then no.
That you have drank the wrong Kool-Aid.
I was like, oh, I'm the only Asian person in the room, so it's like so weird to see somebody kind of like debate about a country that my mom is from. I would have to agree with John more in terms of like China being a communist country.
John, I'm a parent, and one of the challenges I have is making sure that my mindset is not my children's mindset. How do you overcome that challenge as a billionaire to make sure your children have their own mindsets?
That's hard to do because they live with you and they hear you. The interesting thing about life is you get older, you start listening to your children, you're like, they're stealing all my shit. I said that, I did that. But what I used to tell them is this: when you're watching me, take the good parts and leave the bad parts. And the thing I used to tell my kids is the only thing that I want you to be I don't care what you are other than this. I want you to be a compassionate human being. I want you to put other people first. And that's the only mindset that I wanted them to take. And I think that they have done that.
One of my goals, I think, is to make my kids better than me. What's your main challenge that you see as a billionaire making your kids better than you?
The main challenge is that your children do not feel entitled. There's nothing worse than an entitled person, somebody who was born with a silver spoon stuck up their butt, and they become the worst person in the world. I never bought my kids nice cars because I knew they were going to be dinged. And you have to make your kids work. You have to have consequences that are consistent. But the main thing you have to do, if I was giving advice as a parent, you got to spend a whole lot of time. It's all about the time. And remember this, your child is one friend away from total disaster. And when you see that friend, you got to separate that friend as hard as it is.
So you just mentioned
I like this guy that just spoke now. You understand? I like his mindset. I think he may be like the only parent here. I think there may be two, like full-time fathers. I don't mean like people that have baby members and stuff like that. Because from the questions he's asking, you can see that this man, he wants growth. You understand? He's not like leaning into the middle class level thing. He wants like growth, even if it's not for him, like his children. Like he's asking questions like, okay, even if I don't get to this class of being like a millionaire or something, how is it that how can I push my children to get to that extent? You understand? That's why I like, the questions this man is asking.
that when you have a child who is having a friend that you find them to be not good for them, essentially, that you have to do what you can to separate them. As a billionaire, what does that entail for you?
Well, you can only do so much. I mean, I've only separated 2 friends in all the years. And one was a kid who used to come over and, he just reeked of marijuana and he was stoned. And I just had a bad vibe. And I said, look, so-and-so, you can't go over there and he can't come over here. My son Matthew was enraged. You can't tell me who's going to be my friend. I said, I'm telling you, you can't go there and they can't come here. But you can't stop them at school. You can't stop them at a certain point. Later in life, I was justified because that kid that I was worried about ended up in prison.
I'm someone who works with youth in Orlando. I spend every moment of my days to coach and develop the youth in Orlando. And I work with at-risk youth. And one of the biggest things that I have seen in Orlando is that since medical marijuana was passed as a bill in Florida, marijuana use has become normalized among the youth and those that are underaged. One of the things that you mentioned earlier is that you didn't allow your son to be friends with someone who smoked pot because he smelled loud and he smoked weed. So why would you advocate for a bill like that to be passed when you kicked someone out of your family's circle who was smoking weed themselves?
Like you have to pay attention to what someone is saying before you ask questions, because he clearly said that he paid for the passing of a bill that legalizes medical use of marijuana. You get the point? Medical use. So it was prescribed, like to use marijuana was prescribed by the doctor. He's not saying to go and get it illegally from somewhere else or just getting it from a dealer and all this kind of stuff, start smoking and getting high on it. See the medical use, like the doctor tell you, go to so and so pharmacy, like writes a prescription for you, you carry it to the pharmacy, they give you the marijuana, and you take it according to the dose, the doctor told you to take.
My brother was paralyzed. They had him on Percocet, Xanax, and everything else. The only thing that gave him relief, immediate relief, was marijuana. Listen, I believe that marijuana use at an early age fries the mind. I drug tested my children a lot, and my son Matthew failed that drug test a lot. But here's the difference. Would I rather have my brother taking marijuana gummy or opioids, fentanyl? It's a no-brainer. So I don't think marijuana use is on the rise. Let me tell you something. If you want marijuana today, go to any middle school in America.
Yep.
and we'll have a nickel bag real fast.
Yeah. So do you feel that there's an ethical gray area when it comes to use of marijuana or other drugs in the youth or in adults in our country? And do you think that that leads to potentially a ethical gray area for you as a billionaire as it relates to other things in your life?
Medical marijuana, no way. Because listen, where I think the unethical conduct is coming from is from the pharmaceutical industry. Marijuana is a plant that was put into earth by God or by nature, and it works. I don't know how it works. I don't know how aloe works, but when you rub aloe on sunscreen, it goes away. So I feel very good morally, ethically, every single way about what I did with medical marijuana. And here's the proof in the pudding. 1 million people in Florida have a card, and guess who uses it mostly? People 65 and older. Go to the marijuana stores, look at the marijuana stores, look who's going in. It ain't kids, it's me.
Yeah, so I'm still really confused about the marijuana thing. I feel like with a lot of billionaires, they do want to care for people, but they really don't want them around them. So that's what I feel that you feel with the marijuana. You're fine with people growing it, you're fine with people doing whatever. But right when it's in your house, you don't really care about the person and you want them not around you or your family.
I'd take a gummy every night. It's in my house every...
But at the end of the day, this is just the same thing as, your parents want you to, get married one day. But at this stage, as you're growing, you cannot just bring a girl to your house just like that. You're not even mad. That is for those of us in an African household and Asian household. But at some point, they'll be asking you, don't you have a girlfriend? Like when you're grown, don't you have a girlfriend? Don't you have this? Don't you have that? And here again, like, in relation to what this girl is saying, to his story, the person, the man, like John was describing, looks like he's a stoner, he's an addict. You don't want that type of person around your kids because those type of people will just mess up your kids' life and future. If they mess up his son's life, like how would the son take over the business if he wants to pass it down to him? At the end of the day, you always look out for your son. That's why it's medical. If his child has an issue, maybe anxiety or depression, although those use of all these drugs can increase it, or something like, let's say, pain or something that's pain, like serious pain, then marijuana could be prescribed to the person, to just get person off that pain, you understand, cause that relief. But trying to say like from what she's like, trying to use her statements as an argument, like against as a counter argument against his decision of kicking that guy out, doesn't make sense.
What are you talking about?
Then why did you kick the person out of your house?
He was a kid who I thought was, not just that he reeked of marijuana, he was a kid who I thought was bad news. I didn't think that he was smoking marijuana. I thought he was selling marijuana. Look, I think all of Matthew's friends smoke marijuana, and so that wasn't the issue. The issue was this guy might be a criminal. This guy is a bad influence. So don't take it the wrong way.
Okay, so you kind of briefly talked on like for-profit CEOs and things like that. I was just kind of hoping to hear your take on the current state of healthcare and what recently occurred with their CEO.
Before I answer that question, I want to go back to the coach's question about marijuana, just so everybody understands where I stand. If John Morgan was king, I'd legalize marijuana all over the country, and I'd let you grow it at your house. So that's how I feel about marijuana. As far as the healthcare, think about this for a minute. There's only one place that we go ever, and we never ask what it costs. When you go to get your hair cut, what's the cost? When you go to buy a candy bar, what's the cost? When you walk into a hospital, none of us ever ask what it's going to cost. You can get a Tylenol pill over here for 20 bucks. It could be $1 at the other hospital. The of the insurance industry by healthcare is awful. It's off the charts. Our pharmaceuticals in this country are way more money than pharmaceuticals in his favorite country, China. And so you've got the healthcare where we don't ask what things cost, and then you got insurance companies who are fighting healthcare, and they're trying to gouge, the hospitals are trying to gouge, the insurance companies are trying to not be gouged, they're fighting, and guess who's stuck in the middle? The person who needs treatment, the person who has cancer, and they're saying, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. And then what happens? People go postal, people snap.
So would you be in favor then of a socialized form of healthcare in the United States?
I don't know how it will work. Listen,
Every other major country has a socialized form of healthcare.
When Obama was president, he came to my house as president. I supported Obama. I'm on the National Finance Committee for Obama. And one of the things that I really liked about Obama was Obamacare. A lot of people lost their House seats for voting for Obamacare. So listen, I'm all ears about anything we can do to get more medicine and more treatment to people. My brother-in-law is a physician up in Haines City, Florida. I have a clinic called the Morgan & Morgan Clinic where he runs it, I fund it, and we take care of everybody who has lost in the system who can't get care.
How do you deal with profiting over other people's injuries in your law firm?
Every business is in business to make a profit. If you don't have a profit, you don't have a business. On the other side of me and on the other side of my
Yo, like, our question is somehow, but what he just said is the truth. You understand? Every business is in business to make a profit. That's just the thing. You understand? So, and the fact that the way she framed it, like, you're making money off people, like people suffering and people's that grave diggers made a lot of money during COVID period. Coffee makers made a lot of money during COVID period. You understand? Like, that's just the cycle of life, bro. That's just the fucking cycle of life. People have to eat. People have different occupations, so they have to use their skill to make money. So you saying why you making profit over people's, misfortune? It's just somehow like let me give another example now. If your phone breaks, that's a misfortune for you, but that is a fortune for a phone repairer or Apple or Samsung if you go and get a new phone from them. But when it becomes bad, like when it becomes terrible, is in the case of all these pharmaceutical companies in the US and health insurance companies, whereby you keep on paying your insurance money. Then when you fall sick and you really need them for help to come and pay for the bills, they just deny or they just delay. Like it doesn't really make sense. Then all these pharmacies, then the price of drugs is just stupidly expensive for no reason, like the only reason like those drugs are that expensive is just for them to make profit for the shareholders. Doesn't really make sense. Like that one is just pure evil. Like seriously pure evil. Another one is war. You understand? All these people that push for those people that push for war, they want like this Russia and Ukraine war. A lot of politicians push for sending money to sending weapons to Ukraine, or they'll come and they'll push Ukraine to provoke Russia and all this kind of thing, or they'll push Russia to provoke Ukraine. Anyhow it goes. Because at the end of the day, when the war starts, they start investing their money in all these defense companies and they make cool cash from there. Just make cool cash and it's just evil. That one is just plain evil.
I personally work at my family's cafe, and I was wondering how much do you normally tip customer service workers that are in serving positions?
Bruh, not to hate on this guy, but I feel like this question may be quite, stupid or irrelevant. Not stupid, just irrelevant. Because I feel like he's, asking this question, try to judge how charitable this guy is to all these waiters and workers. Bro, you guys are standing, or you're in the midst, you're standing in front of a destiny helper. Stop asking how much is going to tip. Try and be like, okay, try and bring up something, business idea or something, and see if you can get him to invest in you. Like you're standing in front of a business, of a destiny helper. People are wasting opportunities there. Mad opportunities, like you may not even get this opportunity to sit down with a billionaire again in your life.
$100. And I'll tell you why. We're a member of 3 different churches, and my wife gives away, I don't even know what she gives to these churches. But I am much more interested in leaving $100 tips for my servers and for the people who cut my hair than throwing $100 in the collection plate, because $100 to somebody can change their day. I got a case one time where a little boy was killed by a bus in Jacksonville. My investigator called me and said, I just think I'd tell you how we got this case. I said, how? He said, the woman met you once. I said, when did she meet me? 5 years ago. Where? It was Christmas Eve at Bob Evans. And I went there for breakfast with my daughter. And she told my investigator, and he left me a $100 tip. That's why she called me. So I don't know where your cafe is, but let me know and I'll come in and
Amazing.
leave you a $100 tip.
I'll definitely let you know. That's an amazing tip. Thank you, John.
Yo, so you just play the ball game for you. You understand? You just pass the ball to you. Now, what you have to do now is do your research in the business stuff or whatever you want to do. Try and make sure it comes to your company to give you that, to where your workplace to give you that tip. And just pitch him some ideas, see if it can help you, even if it's a grant of 50K dollars. And start something.
Do you believe it's justifiable to be worth $1 billion while millions live in poverty?
No.
Yes.
If I could undo it all and let us all be the same, that's what I would do.
Okay, and do you believe, because I heard something about how you don't agree with the government spending, which I actually do agree with, so how would you split up the money?
The most to the most with the least.
Huh?
I believe that the most,
Something about how you don't agree with the government spending, which I actually do agree with, so how would you split up the money?
the most to the most with the least. I believe that there are people that are, and I don't believe it, I know it. When you go out to the Morgan Hunger Relief Center, the people that are walking in there are not the homeless. They're walking in there dressed in work clothes with their children to get free food. And it's an abomination.
Yeah, because I go to the University of Florida because I remember you mentioning it. And one thing I've noticed as a college student is that there is a lot of corruption throughout it, from the president, even from student government funneling millions. And then when I look into to see what happened to them, nothing really happened. They didn't go to jail or anything.
Look, the University of Florida, they hired this president who was just a buddy of the governor's, and he came up there and raped the University of Florida and took so much money, and he's still on the payroll, Ben Sass.
Yeah, that's what a lot of college students are talking about.
It's an outrage. And by the way, when you Google those articles, the alligator, I'm all over those all over those articles, ripping him a new.
So you just mentioned that everyone's a politician now, but you also said that you also have done at least 2 different things with legislation. So would you consider yourself to also be a politician?
Sorta. You know, everybody wants me to run for governor of Florida right now. When I'd go to the White House, they'd take me over to the side and show me polling on me. And there's a side of me that thinks I could be good at it, but then there's a side of me that really enjoys living in Maui half the year. So I became sort of a politician because, listen, they were fighting me hard on the minimum wage. They were fighting me hard on medical marijuana. And I was out debating sheriffs, and everybody I was debating had a green suit on and a gun. So it's like, a little hard to debate them. So I was sort of a politician because I was in the political realm. And that's why all this talk about me, about people wanting me to run for governor is percolating.
So today, I think we've all sat here and we've heard you talk about your jet and Maui and your 3 homes and the money that sits in your account that you don't care to touch. I think we all have experienced at some point in time that moment that you talked about as a kid, sitting there hoping and praying that somebody would help you. So I guess my question that you didn't really answer, you just told me how much you have. What stops you from helping every person in this room that's struggling right now, that can't pay a bill, had to miss out on work? How do you help them? What do you do? Because you got a private jet, but I had to take off from work today, and I'm struggling. I got bills, man. And I'm not begging for money, but I'm saying, what stops you from being able to go and help us and change our lives?
Me personally, if I was this guy, what is stopping me is the value they bring to me and the society. You understand? If they are not bringing any value to me and the society, why help them? You feel me? Because no, don't get me wrong. When I say why help them, I don't mean in the sense of like why give them money. Like if you see someone that is in need of money and stuff like that, You can obviously give that person money. Someone needs money for, let me say, to pay off their children's school fees. You can help them. Someone needs money for, pay off their medical bills. You can help them. Someone needs money to, like pay off their car insurance. You can help them. But it seems like, why don't you help them, like change everybody's life in that room? Like, no. You change the people's life that you feel like brings value to the society. That's why, like, that's why even me, I'm working on myself to see if someone asks me, if I find a situation like the room like this is someone who can help me, destiny helper, I will have the right words, like, like I have the right words in my mouth to, try and convince the person or try and convince the person to bring the person to my side to actually help me. I don't know if I made that stuff clear. Like, I don't know if you guys understand.
Because
Let me give you 100 while we're here.
thank you.
Don't buy marijuana
No, I don't smoke. I
at the
don't
middle
drink.
school.
No, man.
Nothing stops me. Listen, here's how I look at it. I went to a religious retreat one time under duress. It was called a Crescio. And I thought it was going to be a bunch of bullshit, and it was basically a bunch of bullshit. But at the very end, it all came down to one thing that I took from that meeting. And here's what I took. I can't change the whole world. I would love to be able to. But the phrase that I took from that Crescio weekend was, bloom where you're planted. What does that mean? That means I can't solve hardly anything. But every once in a while, I'll get a God whisper, somebody asking, then I think back to that Crescio, and it's like, bloom where you're planted. And I feel like at this moment, that's what I'm being asked to do. And I can only do so much. I'm trying to manage my money so that at the end of it all, it can have the greatest bang for its buck.
If I'm being completely honest, I'm not sure if there's anything that would have been a perfect answer, just because he's really good at talking to you and he's a likable guy, and he's soft in the eyes, so it's easy for him to get you on his side. So I don't know if there's anything he could have said that would have
Yeah, bro, he just gave you $100. Like, why won't you be on the side? Just give you $100.
completely changed my mind. But I think showing your actions, he handed me $100, but there were people in the room had told their stories throughout the day, and with a wad of cash in your hand, you could shut me up, but he could have given it to everybody. He could have shown in that moment that he has the power to change your life, and he could try to change your life. Even if it's a small amount, it's better than nothing. And he didn't really do that.
One of the takeaways I took is there was a quiet.
People in the room had told their stories throughout the day, and with a wad of cash in your hand, you could shut me up, but he could have given it to everybody. He could have shown in that moment that he has the power to change your life, and he could try to change your life. Even if it's a small amount, it's better than nothing.
What if you're the only person that's struggling in that room? What if you're the only person that's struggling in that room, like seriously struggling in that room? Because the questions you are asking was, for him to give you money out of from the questions you're asking, it sounded as if you are begging. So what if you're the only person that's struggling in that room? Because if you check the man that has a family, the questions he was asking, he was asking questions like, for the questions he was asking, that he's living comfortably, but he just wants his children to just be better than him. You understand? So what if you're just the only person who has responsibility, let's say, let me just put responsibility that you care for, who knows where. So you're the only person who's struggling in that room. So you have to look at it like that.
And he didn't really do that.
So if he just comes out and share $100 to everybody, then he has changed people's life. No, that's not changing people's life. If changing someone's life is an impactful something, $100 sharing $100 to everybody is not an impactful something. Just like how politics is, like how they play politics in Nigeria here. They come here, like during their campaigns, they share rice, they share this, and people go and vote for that person, thinking that person will change their life. Like sharing rice and sharing tomatoes and sharing money does not change anybody's life. After all, you eat that rice and you still be in that same poverty state. And that guy you voted for will get into power and actually change that person's life, actually change your life and making it worse the kind of decisions he made because he has spent a lot of money, buying votes.
One of the takeaways I took is there was a quiet desperation, a little bit of a worry about the future, and a little resentment about people who have money.
So I think billionaires are inherently parasitical to society as a whole, no matter how they accumulated that wealth.
The fuck you mean? That's it. See, at the end of the day, they are just going to be people who are richer than others, no matter what you say. There cannot be equality of wealth. It's not possible. You understand? If there's equality of wealth, then there won't be any value attached to money. So there cannot be equality of wealth. It's not possible. So that all your statement is just anyhow. They're necessary because someone who's what you should be praying for is billionaires that have a good heart. You understand? There's one of them that I think he donated his entire fund into for research purposes that can develop that can help humanity. So those type of people that's the kind of person you want. You understand? That's the type of billionaires you want, not the ones that owns all these health insurance stuff that will just be collecting money from people and not paying off their insurance fee.
They're always going to be profiting off of the backs of people who are doing the work. In his case, he's the better of evil system in general. While he is helping injured people get the settlement that they feel they deserve, he is still profiting off of advocating for that injury.
Yo, you cannot go to school for how many years lawyers go to school, become a lawyer. You have to pay the government like that. Let me say $300,000 or something all the time you went to school. I want to advocate for people for free. Who will pay off that student loan debt? You understand? So what this guy saying is bullshit. To me, it's bullshit. He's offering a service. You pay for the service. That's how the world works. Even people in waiters. Someone's misfortune is that they're hungry. If they come, you serve them food, they pay you. So that's just the thing. That's just the thing. You cannot go and acquire a skill and people expect you to use the skill for free. So how will you now eat? How will you now survive? How will you now help yourself? He's a billionaire because he's actually good at his job. You understand? He's a billionaire because he's very good at his job. So he has won a lot of cases and more people come to him. So that's just the thing. If you're good at your job and you have the business mindset, well, I believe you can be like him.
Of the volition that there's nothing wrong with billionaires. I am a rabid capitalist, and I know John talked about that a lot, but that is who I am. That is my background. I think that if you have a financial wealth, yes, you should definitely do good things with it, and you need to help the people around you. That's just moral code. But I don't believe that billionaires are inherently bad or, they're out to prove world domination or something of the sort like that.
I think a lot of the questions are going to help me reflect on those questions and what I should and am doing.
So thank you guys for tuning in on this episode of 20 People Confronting a Billionaire by Jubilee, and the billionaire was John Morgan. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you guys will enjoy this one. It's going to be a very long video, so enjoy it. And peace. Bye.